Welcome back to another video. In this episode, I'm going to show you how you can save a little bit of money and service your car by yourself. If you don't trust me, you can trust my dad, who's here to help me, who is a retired mechanic. He's been a mechanic his whole life, 40 years. He's going to basically show me to show you. We're going to do a whole service, everything you need to do that you would normally get at a service station. All right, let's go. This episode is sponsored by saltyvanventures.com. More on that later. So I'm no stranger to cars and fixing cars myself, as from a young age of about 6, I was at my dad's mechanic shop helping him out. I worked there all the way up until I was about 17, fixing my own cars and helping him around the workshop. Alright, so this is pretty much everything you need to do a pretty standard service. Obviously you need your oil, your fuel filter and your oil filter. Don't forget your sump plug washer. If you're servicing this exact same car, which is the 2.2 litre diesel, I'll leave everything that we're using in the description, all the sizes of the washers, the fuel filter, oil filter, how much oil you need, everything like that. You're also going to need a pollen filter. So a pollen filter is something that a lot of people don't know about, but I'll tell you about that later. And then your air filter. Silicone spray is also going to be used to really give that final touch to your service, make everything move a lot smoother. A couple of tools. We've got our oil filter removal tool, a socket set with some spanners, and then a bucket or somewhere where you can collect the oil. So obviously we're going to be draining 10 litres of oil from this car. You need to collect it somewhere and then take it to like a waste disposal unit. So we've got double bagged a plastic bucket. We've got a lid for it. We're going to fill it up with the oil, waste oil, and the waste diesel from the diesel filter. And then once we're done, we'll take it to the oil disposal place in town.
According to your service book, you're supposed to service it every 7,500 kilometers, but it really depends how much you drive. If you drive a lot in a year, I would say every 10,000 kilometers is sufficient to change the oil. And then I would do by the service book, you have what you need to replace at what stage: air filter, fuel filter and pollen filter. And also depends on the condition you drive. If you drive very dusty roads, it's a totally different situation than if you drive city roads.
Because we're living in this full time, we drive, probably 30,000 Ks a year. So we are doing it every 10,000 Ks because we are driving a lot, getting a lot of use out of it. We're going to start by changing the oil, get that draining, and then we can work on a couple of things at the same time. Okay, I've jacked the car up a little bit, just driven them onto bricks just to get a little bit more clearance. So it's going to allow me to get under there with the bucket. If you do have jack stands, obviously a lot better option. Don't have any, so this is the next best thing. For a bit of extra comfort, we've just put a couple of logs behind the back wheels so we can't roll forward down off this driveway. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is drain the oil. So this is the sump plug. I've got my bucket. You want to crack the sump plug to crack it open. Don't wrench it. The oil's going to piss out like this, so you have the bucket a little bit further on. If you do it really smoothly, you don't get any oil on your hands. Let's see if I can do it. So I was always taught to keep pressure on the sump plug while you're turning it. So then you can kind of just let it go. So I'm pushing onto the sump with the sump plug until I'm all the way out, and then I'll pull the screw out like this. And I didn't get oil all over my hands. Alright, that's my oil filter. I've got my new one here. It's going to replace that. What I've just done to prep this, I've just got some of the new oil and just rubbed it around the O-ring here. It just means that next time I'm going to be able to take this off a lot easier. Got my oil filter removal tool. Okay, apparently diesel oil filters have to be very tight because they got a lot more pressure in them. Okay, that's done.
It's important that you replace the sump plug washer. It's a rubber O-ring on this particular car, and you just take the old one off and then slip the new one on. before you replace the sump plug.
You want to do that every time you change the oil?
Yes, so it's important that you have a few of those in stock.
Pretty tight. So once you get your old oil filter, you can put it in something like a milk jug, whack a few holes in it with a screwdriver or something, which releases the pressure and allows the oil filter to drain, and then you can pretty much just put it in the bin. You don't have to worry about putting it somewhere special. Now that we've put the oil filter and replaced the sump plug, we can fill the oil back up. Make sure you clean this cap too. This one had a bit of sand on it, so we just cleaned it off. So you just want to make sure, and every engine's different, so we'll fill that up. We've got fully synthetic oil, so it is quite a bit more expensive, but it is premium oil. Fully synthetic oil is much better if you've got a turbo. This van is turbo diesel, so we're going to put in fully synthetic oil, give that turbo a bit of love.
To stop it from spilling all the oil, it's very wise to cut down a drink bottle and make a funnel out of it.
So we just checked in the service manual. It takes 10.1 litres to fill this Transit up with an oil filter. Right at the top.
We undo the electrical connection for the water sensor then we unclip.
So this is the diesel filter, yeah?
This is the diesel filter, yes, the fuel filter. And then we unclip this cable. You just need to open it up, and then we can drain the filter. We'll make less of a mess.
Okay, so you're taking the O-ring off the fuel filter cap, and because the fuel filters come with a replacement O-ring.
Yeah, but we're gonna put a bit of oil on that too.
So we'll put a bit of oil on this, get it nice and lubed up. So that's so it'll come off easy next time, yeah?
Yeah.
Helping yourself later on.
And that new O-ring goes back in the groove. I think goes up inside. Oh no, that goes in here.
So it clicks in.
So it clicks in here, and then the whole lot goes in, and a bayonet setup.
What's a bayonet setup? So it clicks
in.
Yeah, right. So now we just screw that on.
Yeah. We'll just go back in here again, and we twist this up again. That's it.
We'll put the cables back in.
I'm going to put the water filter sensor on again. That's it. Make sure the drain plug is closed, and that's it.
So the next thing we're going to check now is the gearbox and diff oil. Make sure they're still all fine, and then we're going to come into the engine bay. 3/8 ratchet.
This is your diff checking plug, level plug, and it's a conical plug, so it hasn't got a sump plug washer. So you just lift it up slightly, have a look if there's any oil coming out. Okay, what we do is we take a cable tie and we make a little right angle on it, just in case it falls in or breaks off. It's not going to ruin the diff. Nothing metal I would stick in there. And then we put that in the hole right on the bottom and pull it out and have a look how high the level is, so we can see clearly it's full.
So that's full, huh?
We have quite a bit of metal on the plug. That's a magnetic plug in case some metal filings float around. So what we will do is clean it up before we put it back on again.
Alright, so the plug is all clean. All the metal filings have come off. There you go.
It's also important that we can see that the oil who comes out of the gearbox is not whitish. It means it hasn't got water in it, because Marcel has been driving to water lately, as we had a lot of floods here in Australia. So we can clearly see there's no water in the diff. So we put this sump plug back in again. You make sure that this is a conical plug, so that doesn't need that super tight. It locks itself.
Okay. So we're at the front of the car again. This is the manual transmission, and we're going to do the same thing what we just did on the rear diff, is check the oil. So this is the oil filler and it is a 12mm Allen key. So we're going to take it off, put a little plastic cable tie in there, check the oil, make sure it's not white, and then put it back on. Check it's also the right level. So the one thing I did want to talk to you about in this video was the sponsor, which is us, saltyvanventures.com. So saltyvanventures.com is the website we built where you can get all the resources that may help you to build your van. You can get our 3D models for both this van and our Chilean van. Our New Zealand van will be coming up very shortly. The electrical diagram, you can see our complete cost breakdown there. So that is in epic detail down to the screw. All the products we've put into this van, there's links there. And our most exciting thing is our van build consulting service. So it's getting quite popular. We are basically helping anyone build their van at any stage of their build. We'll help you do your electrical diagrams, your models, layouts, basically anything you need help with, we can help you with. There's packages for everyone. Go check out the website, saltyvanventures.com. So the next thing we're going to change is the pollen filter. And in this car, it's the filter that is pulled in through the front of the car that is used around the car. So for the heater or the air conditioner. So to change that, it's normally under the glove box. So there's two little tabs you can push down and the whole glove box falls down. We open up this little leaf and then the pollen filter just comes out. And you can see that should be that color. So that's had quite a bit of use. That's just dust and crap. You can see that's been sucked up and stopped from coming into the car, which is what you want. But yeah, you definitely want to be replacing this one, especially if you're driving on dusty roads a lot. So the air filter is a very easy thing to change. On this car, it's on the right hand side down here. I've just taken this cover off, and to do that you have to disconnect this intake hose, and then this will come out really easily. This just slots back in, and then this just clips back on. So before we put the air filter cover back on, there's a thing in here which is called the air mass flow meter. So I don't know if you can see that, but that needs to be cleaned out because that is a sensor which tells the car what,
how much air and what the air temperature is. And it's got a tiny little wire inside, and you need to clean it with a special air mass meter cleaner. Nothing else.
Nothing else?
No.
And then these clips down here just clip back onto the box, and then I just got to connect the air hose back on again. So the air filter is back in, the hose is back on. So what else are we checking?
We check, make sure that all the house connections are clean. We check if the coolant level hasn't dropped. Make sure that there's no corrosion on any of the house connection. We twist the serpentine belt. That's the belt that turns air conditioning, alternator, and a lot of other things.
So we twist this belt?
Yeah, just twist a little bit and have a look if there's any cracks in it. If there's cracks in it, then you have to replace it.
Anything else?
Just make sure that all the connections are clean. You need to clean out these drains because it's very important. They fill up with
dirt,
leaves
crap,
and dirt, and then it overflows and the water will get inside the engine. So that's the whole idea, that it drains itself.
So this one too, right? This is the air intake for inside.
That's the air intake, who then goes to the pollen filter. But this is just a rough little filter who takes the bugs and stuff like that out for this very fine dust. That's why you need a pollen filter.
So another thing you normally do on a service, if you really want to do a really good job, is silicone spray through your window glides. So it just means it goes up and down a lot smoother, stops getting caught, and will last a lot longer. It's always a good idea to test your wiper blades every service, making sure there's no streaks or loud noises, and if there is, you can replace them really cheap at any automotive store. And lastly, to finish off a service, you want to check all your lights, your indicators, your tail lights, your stop lights, reverse lights, and don't forget your number plate light. On the front, you got your high beam, low beam, indicators, fog lights, and on this car we have our spotlight as well that we want to check. And now that we use 10 litres, we can empty our bucket into our 10-litre oil that we've just completely emptied.
Very important that you put the oil sticker on the windscreen and at least write into your service book when you did the last service, so you can remember what you did last time. Thanks for watching.
And
don't forget to subscribe.
we'll see you next time. Cheers.